Let's talk about that extraordinary piece that you wrote on the night of the election. It went around the world, I think, within hours. You talked about it being a tragedy for the American Republic, a tragedy for the Constitution, a sickening event in the history of the United States and liberal democracy.
And I'm sure some people saw it as somebody who didn't get it.
Well,
who can't reconcile himself to a new president. You should give him a chance. That's the
well,
that
or that maybe it was just a little hyperventilating. I think even some people on the left thought, actually, was this written in the sort of emotion and upset of the immediate hours?
I don't deny it, but I don't rescind it in one iota. I wish I could. I would be delighted if the evidence since election night told me, you know what, it's going to be okay. Sometimes conservatives win and the liberal loses.
You did talk about markets tumbling. We haven't seen that, have we?
It tumbled and then the reverse happened. We'll see. Look, I know it's at a volume of alarm that I don't normally sound. Maybe I should sound it more often. God knows we've had historical chapters that deserved it. But I've seen nothing between November 8th and now we're, a goodly month later that makes me feel, don't get so hot and bothered. We've had Nixon, we've had, well, take your pick of presidents you don't approve of. It's not that. It's something much more alarming. A friend of mine here at the office said, it's like you've been tossed out of an airplane and you feel the sense of alarm, fear. You feel the freezing wind around you, but you haven't gone splat yet. And on the other hand, no parachute is opened. No sense of, this is a normal event in the turn between the back and forth between the liberal and the conservative and the Democrat and Republican. There's not that sense, at least not in me. But there is that impulse to make it such, and I see it all around me. I see it on television. I see it in the paper.
You warned against that in your piece, didn't you?
What I would call normalization.
And has that happened?
You see it all over.
Has it been turned into just another sort of turn of the Democratic
wheel? In many voices, yes. And I understand the impulse. It's a very human impulse, always to normalize a situation so that you're not in a state of constant alarm or fear or sadness or agitation. I hope all the bad things that I predicted, I really do, I hope to be completely and utterly wrong. But let's look at what's happened. We have a president who seems to think that the normal business of conflicts of interest do not apply to him. His children are going to run a gigantic business and yet also participate in the decision-making of the White House. He has investments all over the world that depend on the favor of heads of state. He doesn't seem to care about this one iota. Right. His temperament, which is a very important thing in a president, is completely opposite of what the temperament you'd like to see in your grown children. It traffics in hatred, in petulance, in resentment. It's ruled by tweet. Look, Ian, here's the thing. I love my country. I understand completely and utterly that this is a divided country, ideologically and in many other ways. I know that people of my political ilk are not going to win every election. To not reconcile yourself to that is to be a child. But this is something different. This is something different. This is not Mitt Romney winning in 2012 or John McCain in 2008.
But set against the...
And I want to say one other thing, and it's part of a larger current in the world that I find equally troubling, which is an illiberal current that has justifiable beefs with the results of globalization, deindustrialization. There are all kinds of people in the north of England, in the south and the Rust Belt of the United States, and throughout Europe who are made uneasy by and have suffered by all these currents. I get that. I do. I just don't think that the results, the political results, the people in office that we're seeing in many of these countries is the healthiest thing in the world. I think just the opposite. It worries me deeply.
And in that piece that you wrote on the night of the election, you said, we're not heading for fascism because this country won't allow it, but the conditions are there. I think you said that this may be how this starts.
I think a lot of countries have had the circumstance of believing it could never happen here. And it happened slowly, slowly, and then all at once. And part of my alarmism, if you want to call it that, was to, in my own small way, to be part of a sounding of an alarm and a self-awareness that we're not going to repeat history. I don't think anybody thinks that a funny man is going to come out with a little kind of little mustache and an armband with people marching in an odd way. No, we have a reality television billionaire, but who's adopted certain ideological and characterological things that are not for the better of this country, in my view, and taken to its logical conclusion. Yeah, I think a form of American authoritarianism is at stake. And I think that's an alarm worth sounding. I hope to hell I am wrong. I want to be wrong. That's what resisting it is all about, is to make sure that the alarm is not realized as a reality. I think it's an absolute civic and journalistic necessity.